Hello. In this video, we look at the topology and the deployment of the Csrx as a North-South application gateway using the classic load balancer and the Nginx Ingress Controller, all of this in EKS in AWS. I'm Mithun Hebbar, the product lead in the security group at Juniper Networks. Let me begin with this slide, which I've covered in the Csrx use cases as well. In this scenario, the Csrx is deployed as a service within an EKS cluster. The web applications that we are protecting is also deployed as a service within the same EKS cluster. Clients trying to access the web service over the internet are first hit the classic load balancer or the Nginx Ingress Controller, which forwards the traffic through to the Csrx. The Csrx performs NAT before forwarding it through to web applications. Let's look at the traffic flow in a little more detail. The way this slide moves is from the right to the left. So if you first look at the client, it accesses the Nginx Ingress, which is a load balancer managed by the Nginx Ingress Controller. It has a forwarding rule which forwards the traffic that it receives towards the Csrx service. The Csrx service has two endpoints which are deployed at the start using a replica set and a deployment construct in Kubernetes. The Csrx service forwards the traffic to the endpoints, which are either of these Csrx pods, which have a route table entry, which says that to reach this destination of the web service IP, the next hop should be the bridge IP address. For example, destination to web service IP, the next hop would be 51.0.0.1. We will see in the video that we configure this IP address on the bridge interface on the worker nodes. Similarly, there's a destination Nat Rule. A default, all routes, all traffic hitting the Csrx pod is directed towards a web service IP. And there's a source NAT rule which ensures that there is stickiness of the reverse traffic. So there's a source NAT performed with the source IP translated to the egress interface IP on the Csrx pod. For example, the source IP is going to be 51.0.0.5/24 on the Csrx egress interface. Point to note here, we use the management port reorder environment variable in Csrx, which ensures that ETH0 of the instance is assigned the GE000 interface on Csrx. That makes sure that the traffic coming in is actually hitting a revenue interface and not the management port, which is FXP0. The kubeproxy forwards the traffic to the web service, which then forwards it through to the web pod, and the traffic flow, reverse flow, happens the same way. With that said, let's move on to the demonstration. In the previous video, we have seen the setup of the demo cluster in EKS. Also, we saw the Csrx pods were up and running. In this video, we'll see how the traffic is routed through the Csrx to the web service running within the cluster in EKS. To access the web service, we look for the address assigned to the ingress object by Kubernetes. Entering that IP address in the browser, we see the default Nginx page returned. This is as we expect. On the left pane in the screen, we see the curl command returns the same page in the scene in the browser. Let's take a look at the Csrx to monitor the sessions being created. We see that a refresh of the screen increases the packet count in the output. Now, I'm going to switch screens to look at the AWS console to understand what is happening behind the scenes. We see that the YAML files that we deployed have resulted in the creation of a classic load balancer on the EC2 console. If you look at the cluster, we see there are two instances and the listening and the two listeners. There are tags that we can define for these load balancers. Let's take a look at the cluster. The cluster name is of course Csrx EKS demo, and we see that there are two nodes that are part of this cluster, and the workloads running there is what is returned from the kubectl getpods command from the CLI. Switching through various tabs in the configuration section shows different parameters that have now been set. Subnets, VPC info in networking, logging has been disabled and we do not have any tags configured. If you look at the CSRX port, we can see that it is controlled by a replica set and the node that it has been assigned to. If you click on the node, it displays more information about it and the instance ID that the node is assigned to. Clicking on that instance shows the instance information. This page shows the different pods assigned to the worker node running on the particular EC2 instance. Thank you for watching this video. In this section, we saw how the CSRX can be deployed with the Nginx Ingress Controller or the classic load balancer that we saw in the UI interface of the EKS on the AWS Management Console, and how the traffic reaching the CSRX is routed through to the web service application. And when the CSRX can be configured with multiple different L4 to L7 services such as IDP and application security, which can protect your applications from malicious traffic from the internet. Thank you for watching.